Hey, we're cooking with gas here on the Jewcast.
Okay, careful using a phrase like that.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
Tradition!
Oh, shut up, Carl! Shut your goddamn Jew mouth! You people are why there's war in the Middle East!
Gekakken auf een jam.
Nebbig.
Verpoepoepoe.
Vermischt.
Verkakt.
Vertut.
Verstonken.
Fartig.
Exactly.
You're what Grammy Hall would call a real Jew.
Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of American Jew. I'm Jonathan Randall.
I am Jordon Ferber. It's episode 51.
Oh, my God, 51.
We've almost been doing this a year.
Almost been doing it for a year. We thank all of our listeners, and we hope we'll get even more listeners in the new year. We might change up the format a little bit. If you have any suggestions, email us or message us.
Yeah, we're getting close to wrapping up the Torah portion. I think I feel like we've been doing good work here. We've been fighting against anti-Semitism on a verbal level.
Definitely making awareness about it.
I think so. I think these days most Jews fight back with our words. We're
Yeah, well, I mean, because we're lawyers and
yeah, but Israelis are taught how to fight for real.
Well, all Israeli people have to go to the army.
Right.
So they learn military training at a young age. I think like when they're 18 they have to go. So they have that military training, unlike us where we have nothing. I don't think I could defend myself.
It always reminds me, there's an old Jon Stewart joke. He says that the Jews in Israel are not your American Jews. The will you do my taxes for me Jews. They're more the will you hold my machine gun while I take a leak type of Jews.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. When I traveled in Israel, some of the times I was with Israeli soldiers and they had their machine guns with them. And
there are more Israeli soldiers. There's a whole wave of Israeli soldiers now that are trying to teach Americans Krav Maga, so that more Jewish Americans know how to fight.
Well, that's good because all these attacks, all these anti-Semitic attacks, we need to know how to defend ourselves. I took a Krav Maga class one time, wasn't super into it. I didn't feel like it was really self-defense fighting thing. I felt like I didn't think it was realistic for like a real street fight,
Right.
But I would take another class. I guess I definitely want to defend myself more. I don't know why. I've been thinking I really want to know the move where you like butt someone in the head, in the face, like
right.
You take your head in their face, I guess, because the top of your head's like the very hard part. I don't know why I really want to do that.
You want to smash somebody's face in with your with your forehead.
Like, that's the move I want to do. Like if somebody messes with me, I just want to like headbutt him.
I feel like you just want to do a move where you get to scream Krav Maga right as you hit them.
Is that how it works? Well, that's good. These people are teaching Krav Maga. Is there anywhere in New York that they're doing it?
I think there is a thing in New York. The guy that started it, Evan Esch, he served in an elite Israeli Defense Forces, and he was in the U.S. Marine Corps, and he's been trying to get Hasids that quote unquote look the most Jewish are basically raised just to study all the time. They are raised what he says they are raised in an unathletic world.
Okay.
And he wants them to be more connected to the, Moses and Joshua and King David and the Maccabees and all these historical Jews that are, good fighters.
Well, Birthright, we wanted to talk about Birthright.
Right, it's the 25th anniversary of Birthright.
Is it 25? They actually changed it too. It used to be you can only go if you were like 18 to 26. Now it's 18 to 32.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
I went on Birthright. Did you go on Birthright?
I didn't because I had already been to Israel. I went when I was 13. I had a friend of mine who got bar mitzvahed there, and I was his only American friend that was invited.
Oh, that's nice.
His whole family was Israeli, and the whole thing was in Israel.
I had been to Israel, and I still went on Birthright.
I know. I'm just saying I did not defraud.
Boom! Went on Birthright. It was my third time in Israel.
I did not defraud the people at Birthright into giving me a free trip to Israel.
It was a good experience. I went on this Birthright where it was. We also went to Poland, and we marched from Auschwitz to Birkenau.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this has to be a while ago. This was like 15 years ago. It was like 60 years, I think, since the Holocaust. That was the march that we did. It was very intense. One thing that sticks with me from that, after it all, I was sitting outside the concentration camp waiting for like my group, and I just was sitting somewhere. And I was reading a book, and this group of guys came up to me, and they were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what? And they're like, why did you choose to sit here? And I'm like, I don't know. Why not? They're like, we just don't. It's disrespectful that you're just reading a book and sitting down there. And like they wanted to like fight me about it. And I was like, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just like trying to read a book. Like yeah, people came here to their death, and you're just like being casual. And I was like, wow, like simmer down. Like no, there was death, and now there's life, and like I'm trying to breathe some life into this place.
What were you reading?
What was I reading? Tropic of Cancer. I don't know. That stuck with me. That was crazy.
I mean, it's not like you were reading Mein Kampf.
No, I know that would be horrible. I remember we took a train to like get to the area, and there were other like German people on it. And I remember on that train, I had a rap battle with like some German guy.
Uh-oh.
And then I did some rap about like Ich bin Berlin or something. That was the only German I knew, and everybody went crazy. But I mean, Birthright's a good thing. They want all Jews to go to Israel and experience it, especially they want American Jews to know what it's like over there. I mean, I think that's good. It's very Zionist, orientated. They want you, I remember even when we were in Poland, they were like, they didn't want us to spend any money in Poland. They only wanted us to spend money when we got to Israel. They have some of the agenda that I think we kind of have been talking against about. If you're anti-Israel, you're anti-Judaism. They kind of are saying it's one of the same, I think, as part of like their philosophy a little bit. I think it's a great experience. I recommend it. I'm very happy that I went on the Birthright.
How strong are they in pushing the religious aspects of it? Do they allow you to be, secular as we are? Or they...
Yeah. You could do whatever. I mean, I remember the one I went, they were a little like you had to go to prayer.
So they guilt you into doing stuff you don't want to do.
You don't have to do that. I just think the one that I ended up going on for some reason was maybe a little more religious, because I remember I got in trouble one time because I didn't go to prayer.
Well, it's kind of interesting that we're talking about this today as well, because we're coming up on the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz.
Right.
There is a big ceremony in Jerusalem next week of religious and leaders from around the world that are going to be commemorating that.
That's good.
And a number of religious leaders marched in Auschwitz this week as well.
That's so good. They're showing solidarity of the Jews.
Muslim and Israeli and Jewish leaders from different communities all went to Auschwitz to march there.
That's great. I'm so glad that this could bring people together. This was a horrible thing that happened in human history. Anti-Semitism is going crazy everywhere.
Well, it's crazy.
They're going to fight against it.
It's crazy that there are archivists in these different organizations that they say they're racing against time to archive all the names of all the people that died in the Holocaust. We're losing a lot of history, stories from that era at a rapid pace. So they're trying to get all the names down, which is connected to this next thing that the Pew Research study just came out and said that more than half of Americans don't know how many Jews died in the Holocaust.
I mean,
they don't even know when the Holocaust happened. Most of them don't even know what the dates are.
They don't know how Hitler came into power.
Yeah, more than half the people asked thought that Hitler overthrew the government and was like a violent despot.
Yeah, they didn't realize that it was like
that he democratically got elected.
Yeah, it's crazy. 6 million Jews died, but other people died. In the Holocaust, they killed homosexuals and gypsies and
black people.
Yes, it wasn't all Jews, but 6 million of us is a lot. A lot of Jews were murdered. That's a crazy amount, and that people don't know. To think of what our people have gone through and how we suffered, and they try to decimate us from the world.
Yeah.
Could you imagine how many more Jewish people we would be such bigger a population of the world if those 6 million people weren't killed? It's crazy to think that those 6 million people would have had children. There would have been more. We'd be doing better.
Yeah.
It's sad because 75 years, the survivors are getting older and older, and there's going to be less and less of them. I mean, we're getting to a point where there will not be any more survivors because they will pass away.
Right.
And that's going to be kind of a sad thing, not to have these people that were there to witness it, to tell people the story. I mean, I know Spielberg had a series where he interviewed a bunch of them, a bunch of Holocaust survivors, so their stories could get told. And there's places like Yad Vashem in Israel and Holocaust memorials in cities all over the world. But there are still idiots that are saying the Holocaust never happened. People don't realize the obscene amount of people that were murdered. Yeah,
it's crazy to think that even in our most sacred texts, we're being prosecuted. we're being prosecuted in real life today, but also we're getting the sharp end of the stick in the Torah still.
Okay, so
That brings us to this week's Torah portion.
Is that the segue to this week's Torah portion?
I felt like it was pretty smooth.
Okay, not bad.
We're talking about Moses again.
Moses.
We're back to Moses.
We're back to Moses.
Moses goes to the Pharaoh to let my people go.
God.
Right, God comes to Moses and
I
says,
think
listen.
God finally appears to Moses, like
Right.
he appeared to Abraham, like he appeared to all Isaac and, the patriarch of Judaism, all these founding fathers, you might say, as he appeared to them, and he appeared and he told Moses, that he's going to set them free. He's going to take them to Israel, the land that he promised Abraham. They're finally going to get it. After all this time.
But first, you got to go to the Pharaoh and tell him to let all your people go.
Yeah, for some reason he can't just kill the Pharaoh off.
Yeah.
And just the Pharaoh has to go. How are we going to tell them that God's really on our side? And I guess Aaron has a staff, and he takes his staff.
Well, first, Moses says, I don't know if I'm the guy to do this. I have a stutter or something. He had a speech impediment. He's he says, I get tongue-tied. I'm not good at talking in front of people.
Well, isn't that what happened last week? And then that's why they gave...
But this happens in this week.
This week too?
Yeah, it's like a reiteration, I guess, at the beginning of it. God tells him, he says, well, bring Aaron. You'll tell Aaron, and he'll tell the prophet then.
Okay, yeah. They go, and Aaron takes his staff, and he throws on the floor, and it becomes a snake.
Turns into a snake, right.
But then...
The Pharaoh's magicians and sorcerers, they come out, they throw their staves on the floor, and they become snakes. But Aaron's snake is bigger, I guess, and it eats all their snakes.
I mean, it's definitely bigger after it eats all their snakes. But he eats all the snakes. The Pharaoh still isn't impressed.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever.
And God apparently keeps telling them, listen, you're going to go to the Pharaoh and tell him that to let our people go, or else. But he's not going to do it. He's going to be.
He knows he's not going to do it. He's like, but let's try it anyway.
Let's see it anyway. So he keeps going back. Every time he goes back, he says, okay, if you don't do it, I'm going to send a plague. He starts sending the plagues.
Now they start sending the plagues. This is stuff we talk about in Passover.
Right.
So I think the first 7 plagues is in this week's portion.
It's kind of funny the way it happens, though. He says, all right, I'm turning it into blood. And he turns the Nile into blood. Nobody can drink the water. The Pharaoh calls Moses. He says, hey, maybe you're right. Maybe I should be on your side. Maybe, tell God to call it off, and I'll let your people go. So he goes and tells God. God calls it off, and he goes back, and Pharaoh's like, never mind, it happened on its own.
I know, what is an Egyptian giver?
And it happened 7 times.
No, so then the next plague is frogs. Frogs are everywhere. Frogs in the bed, frogs on the head. It's just an obscene amount of frogs.
Yeah, and again, Pharaoh's like, tell God to get rid of the frogs, and then I'll let your people go.
And again, the Pharaoh's like, no,
yeah.
I'm not going to let you go. It's very weird. He doesn't learn his lesson. And then there's another plague. Then lice. Then they have lice. All the men and all the beasts get lice. And same rigmarole.
Same thing.
Let my people go. No, we won't let the people go. Then they have hordes of wild animals come and invade all the cities. Then they have...
God keeps saying, too, he's like, I know he's not going to do it, but let's see. Let's see what happens.
Then they have pestilence that kills all the animals.
Kills all the animals.
And it doesn't kill the Jewish animals.
Right.
It just kills
the Egyptian
animals. He's like, all right, get rid of it, and then we'll let you people go. No, it doesn't do it. Another one. Now there's boils. And again, please... get it to go away, and yes, we'll let your people go, whatever. And then he's like, nah, told you, I tricked you. And Moses got to be annoyed already. Be like, again? What do you think's going to happen right now? This Pharaoh's pretty dumb, too. That's already 6. And then the 7th one comes where they have hail, and it's not just any kind of hail.
Yeah, it's
fire hail.
Yeah.
Hail that's on fire. Ice on fire. Fire ice.
Fire ice.
It comes to the sky. It's devastating, everything. And still, the heart of the Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not let Israel go. I feel like after the first one, the second one may even,
Yeah.
The frogs and be like, all right, this is kind of gross. Let's not.
What's with all these frogs? First of all, I don't like God very much in any of these stories. He's kind of a dick. He says he already knows, none of this is going to work, but let's do it anyway. Let's go through the motions.
I don't understand it. Why is he allowing the Jews to be put in this situation?
Why doesn't he just kill the Pharaoh?
He wants us to suffer for some reason. So then, when he could free us, we'll serve him more or love him more.
But they don't even change any of the tactics. The fact that Moses keeps going back and forth, it's like, what? Something's got to give here.
Well, it doesn't. Pharaoh doesn't care. His heart still hardens. He's a jerk.
And Moses is 80 years old already at this point.
Yeah, they're old. There's a break in the Torah portion too, where I guess they talk about all the families that happened from the sons of Joseph and
It's the beginning of the roll call that they begin.
Yeah, they go all the way to Moses.
Every other portion after this starts with like a nice roll call of all the 12 tribes.
We're
and all
just going to skip over all this boring stuff until we're slaves and the Jews really need God again.
Yeah.
But
the opening crawl of this week's portion.
Some people want to take it literally, but a lot of people think that this isn't that you're just supposed to take lessons from these.
So what is the lesson from this? They say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results 7 times.
This Pharaoh, I guess, was insane.
Well, so is Moses.
Yeah, well, there'll be 3 more plagues to go. The story of Exodus, and then we're going to be going through the desert forever. We talked about that, a lot. That takes up a lot of the story going forward of the Bible. That's like half the year is the Jews traveling in Egypt, traveling from Egypt to the land that God promised us. Where I don't understand why we couldn't just be at that land right away. Why, if he promised it to Abraham, why can't your people be there? Why couldn't he just say, "Hey, go! This is your land.
Seriously,
you guys all go there. Be there. Be fruitful and multiply. I don't have to know." And then, all these years, we're still fighting over the land.
We got you this holy land, but it's on layaway.
After World War II, that's when the UN decided that they were going to make it a Jewish state. After the Holocaust, it wasn't even a Jewish state, and that came from Zionists saying that, hey, in the Bible, God, this is our land. God said this is our land, which is kind of crazy to be like, hey, in this old book that no one can really say is real or not, they say it's my stuff, so I'm taking it, and that's how Israel became a country,
right?
So it's we're still fighting for it, and we're still fighting, of course, with the Palestinians. We have a lot of views of it. I think the Palestinians got screwed a little bit when they were forced out of some of the places that they were living because the Israeli people wanted to come in, the Jewish people, excuse me, when I think it would have been better if we could have lived in harmony, which they did before when I believe it was part of the Ottoman Empire.
I don't know. The lesson that I take away from this week's portion in the context of the entire Torah is nobody learns nothing ever. We never learn.
We never learn our lesson?
No. I mean, clearly, we keep having to go back and do the same thing over and over again.
I mean, you're right. The Jews aren't going to learn their lesson when they go. They are always messing up. The golden calf, they're doing stuff against God. They saw the plagues. They experienced all this stuff. They know this is for real, and they're still like, eh.
We're always happy to learn new things. If you want to send us an email at AmericanJewPodcast@gmail.com.
We're on Instagram at American Jew Podcast. Check me out on Instagram at Jonathan Randall.
You can find me on the gram at Beatnik Nudnik.
And we'll see you next week for our exciting 1-year anniversary show.
Yeah, very exciting. Oh boy.